There comes a moment in every man's life when he realizes this one truth: a woman's deepest pleasure has nothing to do with what you think you know. It's not strength, it's not speed, it's not experience. It's something far more delicate, something most men never learn. And because of that, they never get to witness the version of her that only awakens when she feels completely understood. Today, I'm going to reveal the 9 moves women crave, not because they are physical, but because they unlock a part of her heart she doesn't show to everyone. If you've ever wondered why some men can create unforgettable moments while others leave her feeling empty, stay with me. What you're about to hear will change everything. Comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. When we talk about a woman experiencing deep pleasure, the conversation almost always jumps straight to technique, timing, or physical intensity. But in reality, none of that matters if her mind isn't in the right place. A woman's body follows her emotional world long before it responds physically. And this is the part most men overlook. They try to create a reaction without understanding the environment that reaction depends on. The truth is simple. A woman cannot surrender into pleasure if she doesn't feel safe. Emotional safety is the doorway. Everything else is just scenery. When I say safety, I'm not referring to protection from danger. I'm talking about the kind of emotional grounding that signals to her nervous system: you can relax here. You can soften. You can be yourself without fear of judgment, pressure, or performance. When a woman feels that level of safety, something inside her unlocks. Her breath deepens, her energy settles, her walls drop, not because she's forcing them down, but because she finally feels she can let go. And when she lets go, her pleasure becomes natural, organic, and powerful. A man who understands this doesn't rush her. He doesn't treat intimacy like a checklist or an accomplishment. He understands that emotional safety begins long before any physical moment. It begins in how he listens to her. It begins in how he speaks to her. It begins in how present he is when she's sharing something vulnerable. Emotional safety is built in the everyday moments, when she feels seen, not corrected, understood, not dismissed, valued, not compared. A woman's mind is constantly scanning for emotional cues. She notices tone, silence, tension, hesitation, and intention far quicker than most men realize. So when a man's presence feels scattered or impatient, her body closes. When his energy feels demanding or performative, she withdraws. But when his presence is steady, calm, and attentive, she opens. Not because he asked her to, but because her nervous system trusts him. And this is where many men misunderstand intimacy. They think pleasure is something they give a woman, but in reality, it's something she allows herself to feel. And she only allows it when she feels emotionally secure. You don't make her feel. You create the kind of environment where she can feel freely. Men who grasp this shift from performing to connecting. Instead of trying to impress, they focus on attuning. Instead of rushing to the finish line, they commit to understanding the journey. It's the small things that matter: the softness of your voice when she's uncertain, the patience in your energy when she's tired, the way you look at her when she's speaking, the way you hold space for her without instantly trying to solve everything. These moments tell her, you are safe with me. And for a woman, safety is the foundation of desire. It's the foundation of confidence. It's the foundation of connection so deep that her pleasure becomes a natural extension of how she feels with you, not something you have to force. Women flourish under emotional attunement. When she feels psychologically understood, her body responds effortlessly. She becomes more expressive, more responsive, more open, not because you unlocked a secret move, but because you earned her trust. She gives herself permission to experience the moment fully, and that permission is the strongest catalyst for the intense, overwhelming pleasure most men chase without ever truly understanding. The irony is this: the men who create the deepest experiences for a woman are rarely the men who focus solely on the physical. They're the ones who focus on emotional clarity, presence, and connection. They know that the mind is the first place a woman needs to feel touched. They know that her heart must feel seen before her body can feel free. And they know that the real power lies not in domination, but in emotional wisdom, the ability to stay grounded, calm, intentional, and deeply present with her. When a woman feels emotionally safe, she doesn't hold back. She doesn't hesitate. She doesn't second guess how much of herself she's allowed to express. She gives without fear, responds without insecurity, and receives without resistance. And that is the moment most men never experience, not because they can't, but because they don't understand the psychological depth behind it. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this, it's this. Before you think about what to do with her body, think about what you're doing with her heart. Before you focus on performance, focus on presence. Before you aim for intensity, cultivate safety. Because the woman who feels safe with you will experience pleasure in ways that no technique alone could ever create. A woman's pleasure begins where her fear ends, and you have the power to be the place where that fear disappears. The emotional space you create determines the emotional world she enters, and that world shapes everything that follows. When men think about creating deep intimacy, they often imagine they need to master a fixed set of techniques, as if pleasure is a formula, a sequence, or a set of instructions to memorize. But women don't respond to formulas, they respond to awareness. They respond to presence. They respond to a man who understands the subtle language of their energy. And this is where so many men unintentionally lose their way. They try to perform instead of connect. They focus on doing something instead of feeling someone. They treat intimacy like an achievement instead of an experience. And the minute a man is focused on performance, he stops being present. And when he stops being present, he stops being powerful. Women can sense the difference instantly. They feel when a man's mind is racing. They feel when he's unsure of himself. They feel when he's trying too hard or hesitating or waiting for approval. The female nervous system is incredibly attuned to emotional vibrations. She reads you with her intuition long before she reads you with her words. So when you approach intimacy with the mindset of, I need to do this correctly, she feels the pressure behind your actions. And pressure suppresses her natural ability to relax, to open, and to express freely. This is why mastering sensual awareness begins with letting go of the idea that your role is to impress her. You're not there to audition. You're not performing for a grade. You're simply connecting mind to mind, energy to energy, moment to moment. When you release the obsession with doing everything right, you allow yourself to actually feel. You become grounded instead of frantic, attentive instead of anxious, curious instead of controlling. And a man who is curious, genuinely curious, becomes far more attractive than a man who is simply skilled. Women crave attentiveness. They crave the feeling of being read, not rushed. They crave the presence of someone who actually sees them, not someone who is just following a script they learned somewhere. Awareness shows up in the way you notice her breathing shift, the way you sense her energy rising or softening, the way you respond when she pulls closer or steps back. You're not reacting out of insecurity. You're responding out of understanding. This is the part men underestimate. Women communicate more through their responses than through their words. Her breath, her silence, her tension, her excitement, these are all conversations happening beneath the surface. A man who is truly aware listens with everything he has. His eyes, his intuition, his emotional intelligence, his patience. He pays attention to what she's not saying. And because he's not attached to performing, he can adjust effortlessly. He can slow down when she needs grounding. He can soften when she needs comfort. He can follow when she wants freedom. This is not weakness. It's mastery. Awareness also means understanding pace. Women do not experience intimacy in straight lines. Their energy spirals, rises, plateaus, drops, rises again. A man who is too focused on getting somewhere misses the entire process unfolding in front of him. The moments of stillness are just as important as the moments of intensity. The pauses matter. The transitions matter. The way you shift from one moment to the next matters. When you move with awareness, you match her rhythm instead of forcing one. And when she feels her rhythm honored, her trust deepens, her openness grows, and her experience becomes richer. Sensual awareness is a philosophical shift more than a practical one. It's the understanding that intimacy is not a destination. It is a flow. It is an emotional landscape that changes with mood, stress, confidence, comfort, and connection. A man who tries to master technique alone will always hit walls because technique cannot compensate for emotional absence. But a man who is emotionally present, even with less experience, can create a far more powerful experience than someone who has perfected every technique but lacks attunement. Awareness also requires humility. You understand that her body is not something you control, it is something you collaborate with. You're not there to dominate her experience, you're there to discover it with her. You're not trying to predict every response. You're allowing yourself to be surprised. This humility is magnetic because it communicates. I'm here with you, not ahead of you, not behind you, not above you. Women respond deeply to that kind of energy because it removes performance pressure from both sides and allows authenticity to take over. Ultimately, mastering sensual awareness means learning to be fully in the moment, not thinking about the outcome, not thinking about whether she's satisfied, not thinking about how well you're doing, just being there, grounded, intentional, responsive, and emotionally awake. Women don't crave perfection, they crave presence. They crave a man who makes the moment feel alive, not mechanical. They crave a man who listens with his whole being. And that level of awareness is something no technique in the world can replace. Because at the end of the day, the moves she craves the most are not physical motions. They are emotional reminders. I see you. I feel you. I'm right here with you. A man who is fully present will always create experiences a man focused on performance never can. Presence is the real power. There is a misconception many men carry into intimacy, the idea that pleasure is an event, a single moment, a final peak they must somehow engineer. But pleasure, especially for women, is not a sudden occurrence. It is a slow build, an emotional crescendo shaped long before anything physical begins. It starts with anticipation. The subtle energy of knowing something meaningful is unfolding, the quiet confidence of a man who moves with intention instead of impulse. And this is where emotional leadership becomes crucial. When I say leadership, I'm not referring to dominance or control. I'm talking about emotional clarity, the ability to guide the atmosphere with steadiness, confidence, and sensitivity. Women respond to a man who knows what he's doing not because he demands authority, but because his presence makes the moment feel grounded. She feels held, not handled. She feels guided, not pressured. She feels like she can let go because someone else is confidently holding the emotional frame. Confidence, when expressed with emotional intelligence, becomes a form of reassurance. It communicates that you are present, that you're attuned, that you're moving deliberately instead of reacting aimlessly. And this confidence shapes the anticipation that is so essential to her experience. Anticipation is not about teasing or withholding. It's about allowing the moment to unfold with depth instead of rushing to completion. It's the energy of knowing there is more coming, more connection, more understanding, more presence. Women often say that what excites them most is not what a man does, but how he does it. The tone of his voice, the calm in his eyes, the way he creates space instead of closing it, the way he brings assurance without arrogance. This is where leadership becomes spiritual rather than physical. It's the art of guiding the energy rather than pushing the moment. Because the truth is, most women do not crave intensity first. They crave direction. They crave a feeling that the moment is being shaped by intention, not by accident. A man who embodies this energy is not hurried. He doesn't rush through connection or skip the emotional steps that matter. He knows that anticipation amplifies everything. When you slow down, when you become intentional, when your presence is steady and grounded, her awareness heightens, her imagination engages, her nervous system shifts into trust, and when trust meets anticipation, the experience deepens exponentially. Philosophically, anticipation is the bridge between desire and fulfillment. It is the space where imagination meets reality, where emotional readiness meets physical connection. And for women, this bridge is essential. When anticipation is absent, everything feels rushed, shallow, disconnected. But when it's present, she becomes more open, more expressive, more receptive. Not because she's trying to be, but because the energy around her invites it naturally. Leadership also requires emotional honesty. Women can sense when a man is pretending, overcompensating, or hiding behind an image of confidence. Real leadership is quiet. It shows up in consistency, in clarity, in the ability to stay centered when emotions fluctuate. If she senses that you are grounded, she will feel safe enough to open. If she senses that you are attentive, she will trust your direction. If she senses that your confidence is genuine, she will relax into the moment. This is why emotional leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. You guide not by telling, but by embodying. You influence not through force, but through intention. You create anticipation not by withholding, but by understanding rhythm. The rise, the stillness, the subtle shifts that shape her emotional experience. And when a man learns to navigate these shifts with awareness, he becomes unforgettable. A woman wants to feel that the moment is unfolding with purpose. She wants to know that you're not rushing, not guessing, not lost in your head. Your leadership gives structure to her experience. Your confidence gives permission. Your calmness gives safety. And all these elements work together to create anticipation that amplifies connection. What most men don't realize is that women remember how a moment felt far longer than they remember what physically happened. They remember the energy, the tone, the emotional rise, the feeling of being guided with care and certainty. They remember the anticipation more vividly than the outcome. And that is why emotional leadership is not optional. It is foundational. Ultimately, building anticipation is about guiding her into an emotional state where she can let go of her thoughts and surrender to the experience. It's about creating a rhythm she can trust, a direction she can follow, and an atmosphere she can relax into. When you lead with confidence, patience, and emotional clarity, you create an experience that is not only pleasurable, but deeply meaningful. Because in the end, the intensity she feels is not created by force or speed. It is created by trust, presence, and the slow rise of anticipation that only a grounded, intentional man can create. Remember this: the moment becomes powerful when you stop rushing toward it and start guiding it with purpose. Real connection is built, not forced.